sentence. Stop. State the court of final. Serve your sentence. Stop. Good place to stop. So there's the Imperial Guard. That's one of the other characters that maybe you could do here today. We also have a character by the name of Lucien LeChance. If you feel like you're in a murderous mood, you sleep rather soundly for a murderer, dear child of Sidis. Anyone out there like Lucien LeChance?
Yeah.
Were you in the Dark Brotherhood? Did you betray me? You were loyal to the end?
I actually cried.
You cried?
You took me in. They were hanging for the sin. I was like, no.
Now that, I was very happy with how that turned out. Mark Lambert is the director at Bethesda, and when we were in the booth for that, he told me, he says, this character is a little darker than the rest. Maybe we can play with this. And as you know, for Oblivion, mostly we were doing races, and we would stick to it. I was doing Imperial, and I would do a number of different voices, and they were all very similar. Even when you get to the Gray Fox, who's very much like Capital. Whenever he liked something, he was still very much an Imperial through and through. Lucien, we started to play with. We had a good time with him. And Mark would tell you that in the booth, my eyes would be rolling in the back of my head as I was reading Lucien LeChance, and I could only picture him as this dark, decrepit, falling apart, old, sinister, most evil presence on the face of the earth. My dear child, together we will serve the Night Mother. So I'm thinking, oh, this guy's awful. And then, of course, when I see him drawn, he's this Adonis. He's gorgeous. And suddenly the women are like, oh my God, he's gorgeous. And the epitome of evil, he's the perfect man. Yeah, guys, the nice guy thing goes a whole long way, but you can't fight gorgeous and completely, totally evil. So, I mean, I had a great time doing Lucien. He's a little different. You may choose to do the voice of Lucien today. You can do the Gray Fox if you wish, but he's very much same as the Imperial Guards. If you want to do something from, say, Fallout 3. Now, Mr. Burke, for those of you who heard Mr. Burke and said, God, that reminds me a lot of Lucien LeChance. Well, bingo. Emma Pagliarillo, who wrote The Dark Brotherhood for Fallout 3, really wanted me to come back and do that voice for Mr. Burke. And what I love is the people who came back and go, huh, well, Wes Johnson is really only capable of two voices then, or one voice, same thing, two games. But that was intended as sort of a little tribute to Lucien. A lot of people seem to be upset. Anybody know what happened to Lucien in the game? Anybody want to spoil it for everybody else who hasn't played it in the past, 6 years? Lucien was betrayed, falsely accused. How can you falsely accuse somebody who's probably murdered half of Tamriel? I don't know. But he was betrayed, and he was hung upside down and had his kibbles and bits removed. Did that shock anybody? Yeah? What's that? It was crazy? And it was wrong, man. It was wrong. You know what? I had no idea that was going to happen. I really didn't. All I know is that my lines for Lucien LeChance had ended during our session. So I'm just like you playing through going, oh my God! He's naked! Something's wrong here! Something's missing! So, you can do Lucien. Fallout 3, Mr. Burke is very similar, except he does not have this sort of accent. There's kind of an accent with Lucien. Mr. Burke is very similar, but he doesn't have the accent. I want you to blow this cesspool off the map. So it's very similar. So you can do Mr. Burke. Now you're wondering to yourself, why am I saying you can do that? Well, how many Capitals fans do we have here? Well, I have a pair of tickets that I'm going to give away before the end of today. These are in the front row of the upper level, so the seats are great, right near the blue line. And they're about $80 a piece. They're for the February 8th game against the San Jose Sharks. And I'm going to give them away to somebody who can do the best or the most impassioned impersonation of one of the characters that I've done in a game. Now, you can go with Fox, one of the super mutants from Fallout 3. Fox, I don't think I have sweat more in a voiceover session than doing all the super mutants. My son Ben was there for that, and when I came out, I was completely drenched. You get into it. Fallout, mutants, all of these super mutants, and Fox. Now, I've played the game. I enjoyed Fox, but I have to tell you, as I'm walking through the wasteland, and I just massacred half the countryside. Things have blown up. People are trying to kill us everywhere. And Fox turns to me and goes, "It's amazing how no one attacks us when I'm around you." And I'm like, "Shut up, Fox. What the hell? Are you retarded? They all just tried to kill us." So Fox is kind of the inner special me. But I love him, and especially, have you ever played the game and said to yourself, "I win again"? No, just me? You have? Well, you can do that up here as well. And I'm going to give the tickets away, I promise, to the person who does the best impersonation of me doing any of the characters. Now, the one that sounds the most like me is Squire Bigsley. Did anybody do, this was the Broken Steel. The adaptation, Broken Steel. When you come in, Bigsley is the guy who's just so tired, so exhausted. At the water treatment plant, yeah. Now, Bigsley was fun to do, and Mark was saying he wanted to bring me in because I'd never done any voices that sounded close to this voice. And who would want to, honestly? Who would want to sound like this? But it was fun to do. So if you feel that you can do this voice and do Squire Bigsley, we'll do it. There's also the mutant trackers out in the woods. And they're not so much a voice as a sound. Anybody play? You don't even have to make complete sentences. Now, I'm going to talk about my son. My young son would do this sound around the house. He'd come around, if I asked him to do something he didn't like, take out the trash, go pick up something for me in the kitchen, be like, he'd make that sound. Because he knew it would slide right up my spine to my brainstem and start to throb. So I thought, I've got to do something with that. So he became one of the tracker yokels. And that sound is a little annoying as you're going through the woods, but on the plus side, you probably have a double-gauge shotgun and you can take care of the situation. Now, I love my son. I would never use a double-gauge shotgun to stop you from making that noise. I just want to say that right now in case there's any confusion. That just would not happen. Now, the William Shatner voice, I was going to tell you a little quick story before we start doing this contest. William Shatner, I got a chance. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I'm a huge William Shatner fan. And I did a little video called The William Shatner School of Acting. And we used to do it actually in a comedy troupe I did for Fresh Victims years and years ago. And William Shatner has a fairly interesting voice. When he's younger, he's very much like this. We will succeed. It's my shit. That's young Kirk. Older Kirk is very much Benny Crane. And luckily for me, as William Shatner has grown older... Celebrity alert? Not yet. Not yet, man. Not yet. So they asked me to do, for the E3 version of Star Trek Legacy, I got a chance to fulfill one of my fantasies, which was to be Captain Kirk. Grew up loving Captain Kirk and got a chance to do the voice, Captain's Log, supplemental, and doing all of these different voices. And we filled it out, it went to E3, and they were trying to get William Shatner to do it. And so when they took it to play William Shatner and show him how the game worked, it was my voice playing Captain Kirk that William Shatner got to listen to. And he did an interview with Reuters later on saying, well, I heard someone else doing Captain Kirk, and that's my role. No one does my role except for me. And it was great. It was like he's taking a giant papier-mâché rock and bouncing it off my chest. I was a Gorn, so it was great, and I was my little brush with fame. But later I was going by and I was visiting Mark over at Bethesda, and we're walking through, and we run into Todd Howard, and evidently Pete Hines, who does the PR over at Bethesda, had been dealing a lot with Shatner and Shatner on the phone because they're doing publicity for Star Trek Legacy. And they said, you've got to call him. You've got to call Pete. They put a phone in his hand and said, dear, Todd's instigating the thing, and he's handing the phone and dialing. Here, I'm dialing him up. You've got to pretend that you're Shatner. So I get on the phone, and Pete's answering the phone. He's on his car phone, and I'm like, hello, Pete. It's Bill Shatner. I'm here in D.C. We're doing a car show, and I'm driving all around Bethesda. And I can't find Bethesda Softworks anywhere. Where the hell are you? And he's like, oh, we're not actually in Bethesda. We're somewhere else. Why don't you name it that? Name it where you are. What? I don't understand. Listen. I'm calling about the money. I haven't received any payment yet. And he's like, well, you know how it is, Mr. Shatner. We've discussed this. It takes a few months for the payment. Once you've done something, oh, wait a minute. Listen to me, baby. I'm going around from talk show to talk show. I'm on television. I'm on radio. I'm pumping up this game, which I understand is a piece of shit. And you won't pay me. Now, I can sense Pete is very tense at this moment. But Todd and Mark, my kids, everybody there, Fred's only, they're all on the floor laughing, rolling around. And I'm afraid that Pete's hearing them laughing in the background. So I'm trying to pull it up. Going, no, I'm serious, Pete. He said, I'm serious. My kids are in the car. They're hearing you curse, Mr. Shatner. No, Todd, Pete, listen. I want my money. I want to know where you are. I'm in a limo right now. Tell me where you are. I'm driving there. No, sir, you can't do that. You don't tell me what I can do. So we went on for a few minutes longer to the point where I finally said, hold on, I want you to speak to my lawyer. And I handed the phone over to Todd, who then started to talk to Pete, who then started cussing in front of his own kids. And still to this day insists that he knew that it was me the entire time. But I guarantee you, he did not. So, to give you a little idea, if you want to be William Shatner these days, you need a couple things. You need a little heft. Bring a little heft to the party, because Bill certainly is. Make sure that your hair is as badly coiffed as possible because it's a tribble that has been combed out over the top of the back of your head. I think everybody's favorite story, I don't know, it's mine, maybe you haven't heard, is the hotel where he wouldn't sign an autograph for a young child. The mother came up, ripped off his toupee, and threw it across the hotel lobby. Certainly not Bill's. Maybe it's a rumor, but it was on the internet, so it has to be true. All right, this is a little comedy sketch I did with a comedy group, and as soon as this is done, I want you to